Basketball star Morris Sackett had it all. Fame, money, a pop star girlfriend, and a championship ring. But at the height of it all, Morris was engulfed in the Terrigen cloud, revealing previously unknown inhuman abilities. Now, Morris can take control of anyone's body, like taking the wheel of a car, though the connection goes both ways, allowing both Morris and his host to see information about each other. He also recently discovered that he can never jump into the same person twice. What's going on? It's Big A, and this is a review of Volume 2 of Mosaic. If you want to check out my first review for Mosaic for Volume 1, there should be a card appearing on the screen round about now, and then once you've seen that one, then you can come back to here and see the review of Volume 2. Before we get started, if you're not already, do subscribe and hit the bell. Also, if you like the video, do click like because it does help me out, and also comment as well. With the housekeeping out of the way, let's get started. As always, the review will be split into 3 sections, which will be art, story, and then a conclusion. If you want to skip ahead to a chapter, please feel free to. So the art has a very rough, kind of sketchy style to it. I'm not sure as to whether it complements the superhero genre, but I do feel it would be appropriate for, say, an indie book, for example. I think it would really fit well for an indie book. But for Marvel and the whole superhero genre, I don't think it really fits. Although it is, I guess it's kind of an acquired taste, because it's not the sketchy kind of art that's detailed, for example, where you see really detailed sketchy art. It looks kind of rushed in a way, and I'm trying to be as respectful as possible here, but that's kind of like the impression that I do get from the art. It's not your standard kind of superhero stuff. It is just like sketchy, super sketchy. There could have been, like, for example, there is an issue of Uncanny Inhumans in this book, and they're 2 totally different looking kind of art styles. The Uncanny Inhumans, which finishes off the book, is what you'd expect. This is less so, especially for something that is really visual, like you go inside the bodies and you see Morris accessing the information. This doesn't complement the whole point of the comic, in my opinion. This second volume of Mosaic doesn't really have a story. I felt that the first volume did. It followed kind of Morris trying to find out what was going on, why he had become an inhuman, and him trying to find out why people couldn't see him. There's a lot of discovery going on, which was really good for the first volume. This second volume, it begins where the other volume left off, but it doesn't do anything with that. What happens is that we end up meeting the Inhumans by chance. He meets like Lockjaw, I think, and then Johnny Storm's able to see him when he's flame on, but when he's flame off, you can't see him. And then Johnny teaches him as to how to, well, be viewed by people by just focusing. And then once that happens, it then goes to the event of Inhumans versus X-Men, and it's just kind of like, okay. And then something happens to Mosaic during that fight, and then we skip ahead, and then it turns into another story about Diablo and Mole Men, and Mosaic having to stop Diablo from using the Mole Men to do this thing. So it doesn't have its own story. It has kind of like 3 stories in there. The Inhumans one, when he first met the Inhumans, I thought it was going to go somewhere with that, but they didn't do anything with that at all. You just kind of feel a little bit cheated, because you expect the trade to follow a story, an arc, over X amount of issues, and this doesn't do that. In fact, it pads out the trade with an issue of Uncanny Inhumans, just so it is like the 5 issues, I think it is, because without that, I doubt they would have been able to charge full price. And then the weirdest thing is that the last issue of Mosaic, I think it says like not the end, but I ain't seen this guy anywhere in the Marvel Universe for a while. Like, I don't think anyone cares about him, which is, it's unfortunate, because the concept of him, although it's quite like Deadman, was really good. And I actually like the fact that he was a celebrity who was an asshole, learning how to care about others, because being a hero is obviously looking out for other people. And he does do this in those 2 issues about Diablo and the Mole Men, and kind of helping the Mole Men out and like wanting to free them. So that's great, but it kind of comes from nowhere. It doesn't naturally come out of the story. It's almost like they're told, look guys, you've got 2 issues left and we're cancelling the book, so wrap it up. So they had to do it like super quick. And he has turned over a new leaf by the end. It just does not feel earned by the end whatsoever. So in this second volume, they've tried to tell too many stories. They tried to tell 3 stories, and they're kind of like 3 half stories. So you don't feel fulfilled. All this could have been avoided if Marvel had told them earlier that they were going to finish the book, and it could have wrapped up the whole story about Morris and his dad and the company that was involved in like the whole taking his body and all this kind of business, or the cocoon that his body was in. They could have done something with that, but I guess we'll never see unless they bring it back in the future, which I highly doubt. So to conclude, I would say that this is not worth picking up. It's quite unfortunate because I thought Mosaic was quite an interesting concept and it could have run with it further. I'm not sure as to what Marvel could have done to get the character to be more popular. The time period that it came out, I think, was completely wrong for it. I think they should have brought it out in a different time period. For example, like maybe around the 2010s would have been alright for that kind of stuff. But there were so many characters taking up the mantle of other characters and people not being happy. And then you bring in this brand new character, and they were trying to make the Inhumans the new X-Men because they didn't want Fox to kind of, the association between Fox and the X-Men. So they're like, let's do less X-Men so Fox have less content to make X-Men films on, and all that weirdness going on. It was just all too much, and then this guy was left by the wayside. And so I wouldn't say this book was worth picking up at all. Maybe if you saw it at a really cheap price somewhere and you just wanted to have like a flick through it and see what potentially it could have had, then yeah, I guess it is worth it. But if you're not into that idea, then yeah, it's definitely not worth checking out. Let me know as to whether you heard of Mosaic, whether you read Mosaic, what you think of it. Comment down below if you've read the book or not. And as always, stick around and watch another video.